Hey guys, we're back. This time we're going to be taking a look at Frag, the Gold Edition from Steve Jackson Games. This was a huge game among a bunch of my friends when it first came out. The original one had little paper standouts that you had to cut out and kind of fold. It had a roll out like a fold out map and everything. The Gold Edition is basically a deluxe version that came out much later. Has plastic models and a nice actual playing board, and the components overall are just much nicer. Gameplay is pretty much identical, and it basically plays what you would think a first-person shooter like Unreal Tournament, and I can't think of what else was around at the time. That's the one that usually comes to mind when you think of it, but it plays like that in a board game. You're basically running around, picking up weapons, you get power-ups, you're trying to kill the other people, and they even have tournament rules where you can play continuous back-to-back games and go up levels and you gain better stats and things like that. It's a really fun, quick, fast-paced arena shooter, and the game captures that perfectly. Anyway, we're going to get right in and take a look. So I'd like to point out, even though this was a new copy, you can see there's a big crease right there in the box. My box was beat to hell. And it's such a hard game to get nowadays that I just kind of went with it. There's a big crease here, a fold on the top. I'm not a huge stickler for box condition, but it did suck to get a brand new copy that was beat to hell like that. But it is an older, out-of-print game, so I wasn't going to argue with it, and I got it at a reasonable price. So the first thing we have right here is our rules. This is what I love about the game. It is so easy to pick up and play that there's really 2 pages of rules. There's like an overview on the front, 2 pages of rules, and then some optional rules and definitions on the back. And really easy to play, really straightforward. I think they even have some videos. I don't know if they list them in here. There's plenty of videos online, though, that can teach you how to play, too, without having to actually even read this if you want to skip that. But the only thing that's honestly complicated is the way that the damage rolls work. And I think that system's a little bit more difficult than it needed to be for the game. It's the same way it was in the original game. Basically, you're going to roll a set amount of dice for your damage of your weapon, and then the other person rolls a set amount of dice for their current health, armor, and you divide the armor roll into the attack roll, and that's pretty much what the damage ends up being. Sure, it requires you to do a little bit of math. It's a little bit complicated in explanation and theory, but once you've done it a couple times, it goes real quick and you don't even think about it. Next thing we have is the map here. And it's like I think they're 11-inch square here, which fold out into a ginormous board. Can't even get it all on camera there. And you have rooms, you have these power-ups on here. This is where you pick up weapons and armor, or gadgets as they call them. And then there's the doors. One-way doors, you can only go out in the direction of the arrow. There's 2-way doors. I don't think there's any on this map. The color of the doors don't really matter. It's for a expansion, which we don't have. And the grates on the floor are for a future expansion as well. You know, things like these acid traps here on this one. I don't think there is. I think there's more acid traps on the other side. It comes with 2 boards. That one's pretty open. This one's more of an arena style. On here you got some 2-way doors now. And you've got lots of walls to use for cover. Both have a very fun arena feel to them, though. And I like the way the board is set up, the way it folds. You can actually change the size of the board for different games depending on how many people you have playing. Not meant to do it that way, but it works. You can just unfold it part way. We've done it with just a square using 4 sections instead of all 6. Then underneath here we have probably one of the crappiest inserts ever. It's just some cardboard spacers. And for some reason these are filthy. I don't know if something happened to this box. Everything when I got it was still sealed, but the plastic wrap was off, which is the way it was advertised. Nothing was even punched out yet, so I don't know what happened to this insert, but you can see on there, even looks like it's got like water or something got on it. But the components are fine, so again, not going to complain. First thing we have here is a massive bag of dice. I think you get 18 dice in here. And later in the game, you need massive amounts. Early on, maybe 6, possibly 8 is probably all you'll ever use. So it's nice to have a lot, though. And you can divide them up so you don't have to pass them around. I actually plan on buying some generic D6s that match the colors of the characters so everybody has their own set. Just for the heck of it. Completely unneeded, though. Those work just fine. These bags crinkle too much on camera, sorry. Next we have our player tokens, and they're all these cool generic guys. They're like a rubbery, flexible material. Really soft plastic, which is nice because a couple of these came, you can see there it's kind of warped a little, but easy enough to straighten out. Just a little bit of heat will flatten those right out, if you even care about that. They're all the exact same guy in the same pose, but they come in 6 different colors. And of course, none of these, I think you get a baggie for the characters and maybe one for the dice. Everything else comes on punch boards, so all of these tokens, obviously you don't get the Plano tray in there. This tray works perfect for the game, though. It's a little 5-slot one with like a $1 tray. And you got your guts counters over here. Whenever you frag somebody and kill them, you leave one of these behind. Somebody can pick them up and use them basically like a healing potion to heal a wound. You have these loot counters here. There's matching numbers. And when somebody dies or drops a weapon, you mark the pile of weapons with one, you mark the spot on the board with the other, and then whenever you step on that spot, you have a chance to pick up any of the weapons in the pile. Then we have our ammo trackers. These go on your weapons to keep track of how many bullets you have left. And we have 2 empty slots, which is fine because there's an expansion for the game that has its own tokens, which happens to have a couple different kinds of tokens that fill those in. Everything fits in there nice. This is actually just a piece of the punch board I kept because I had the logo on there because I'm weird like that. Next we have our cards. And there's 3 different types of cards in the games. You have these special ones which you get every time you kill someone. And they give you basically game-breaking abilities. Game hacks, cheating stuff, magic bullet, all kinds of interesting things in there. Lag, I love. Just add a thematic thing to the game. A lot of these allow you to break certain rules within the game in order to do interesting feats. The one thing of note is that these are a very strange sized card. They're, I think they're Munchkin sized cards. Something like that. It's a Steve Jackson game, so that would make sense. But they're definitely smaller than a standard card. They're smaller than a, what do they call those? The Japanese cards, like Yu-Gi-Oh! They're just a hair smaller than that. So keep that in mind when you're looking for sleeves. They are way different than your standard size sleeves. Next we have our weapon cards. And yeah, one of the things is these are separated into a couple different decks when they're wrapped. And for some reason, part of mine kind of were warped at an angle down, and the other deck was warped at an angle bent up slightly. So when you put them together, you get that, which is part of the reason I want to sleeve these. After I use them a few times, I'm going to try to flatten them out so they look right. But for now, they kind of have this weird gap look to them. And as you land on the spots on the board that allow you to get weapons, you roll to see if you can pick up a new weapon. If you get one, you draw the top one off the deck. Anything you pick up goes to your hand. Any point during the game, you can put these out in front of you. You can hold up to a certain amount. I think it's your health plus 1. And that's how many you can have in play at one time. If you die, the ones that are in play are what you drop, so you don't want to put out too many. Then everything comes into play with full ammo as you fire it throughout the course of the game. Your ammo go down. When you get to 0 ammo, you can still hang on to the gun, but it's useless until you can reload it. You can also toss it and drop it on the ground, pick up a different weapon, and so on. Then each weapon has little special effects in here. In the case of the machine gun here, it can fire 2 shots per attack. Each one uses an ammo and a separate attack roll. And then they can be used against the same or different targets. There's a ton of different weapon types in here. From beam pistols, shotguns, needlers. I think there's a rocket launcher in here, assault cannons. Quite a few different types in there. And then there's also some other cards that allow you to combine these as well to make new weapons. And then we have your gadget cards. These are the same as the weapons in the fact that you have to step on a spot on the board and then you roll to see if you can pick one up. And they're all different stuff from armors to healing packs. There's an energy shield to cheating cards that let you do various abilities. Walking through walls is a good one. Personal teleporters. And you can only have one piece of armor at a time. They designated down there on what they do for you. And the exoskeleton. Lots of cool things in there. Extra ammo to reload your guns and so on. So you use these in combination with your weapons and your special cards to basically give you an advantage to help you kill your opponents. And the last thing we have in here are our player boards. You get 6 of them in matching colors to the characters. And they're dry erase. They're thick board like you'd get in most tokens made out of these days. And they have a nice finish on them. They seem to hold up pretty well, though I have seen people laminate these to keep them from wear and tear because you are going to be writing on them and erasing all the time. But to see how they hold up, I haven't done anything to these. This is the way they came. And they do give you a dry erase marker in the set, but it unfortunately is dried up because this game is like 10-15 years old at this point. But any plain dry erase markers will work. They have a section up here to keep track of your movement. We never really used that. It's a roll to move game, and it's based on your speed, which we'll get to in a minute here. That's how many dice you roll. We usually just set the dice aside when we roll them for a movement, and as you move, you flip them over and use them as a counter. Makes you not have to keep track of this up here every time. This section here is for if you're playing tournaments. You have each of your games. A normal game only goes to 3 frags. They have it so you can go up to 6 on these. And then each game you gain bonuses if you're playing by tournament rules. Everybody always has a starting pistol, so even when you're unarmed, you still have a weapon you can use. And one of the more cool things about the game that lets it stand out from other games like it is the character design. In the beginning, you have these 3 stats here, and they tell you up here too how to do it. You have 7 points that you can spread among these however you want. You have to assign at least 1 point to each, and you can't assign more than 4 to any one. Health involves how much damage you can take before you die, as well as how many weapons you can pick up. It's health plus 1 is how many weapons you can have. Speed is how many dice you're going to be rolling to move. And also gives you a bonus to how many things you can pick up at a time when you step on somebody else's like dead body and you're looting their weapons. Depending on how high your speed is, you can pick up multiple items. Accuracy is how good you can hit and how fast you can attack. You basically roll the number of dice equal to your accuracy. So say you have an accuracy of 2, you're going to be rolling 2d6, and you have to roll a number equal to or higher than the range from you to your target. So if you're 4 squares away, you'll need to roll a 4 or higher on those 2 dice in order to hit. Your accuracy also is how many shots you can take per turn, and it's half of that number rounded up. So if you have 1 point in there or 2 points in there, you're going to get 1 attack every round. If you have 3 or 4, you'll get 2 attacks a round. 5 and up, you'll get 3 attacks per round, and so on. So that comes into play later, especially in tournament games, because you get plus 1 point to assign to any of these after each round. So it lets you boost your stats up and actually become more powerful throughout the course of a tournament. I usually like to have 3 points in accuracy off the beginning. It gives you only a 2 speed, 2 health, because you only get 7 to start with. But I like that being able to shoot twice. And it's paid off for me in the games I've played so far. And that's a quick look at Frag by Steve Jackson Games. As I said, I love the arena aspect of it. I love the fast-paced nature, the fact that it really captures the feeling of an arena shooter game. The drawback, of course, is that it is an older title. It's extremely hard to find nowadays for a reasonable price, especially the base game. You can usually find the expansion cheaper, but the expansion's kind of worthless without the base game. Honestly, you can find the rules online, and other than the weapon cards, you could play and make a proxy version of the game if you really wanted to try it out. But if you look around hard enough, you can find yourself a good copy. It is a really fun game if you're into that kind of thing. One thing to keep in mind is that it is direct PvP. You are out to kill everyone. You are, going head to head. So if you're not into confrontation, it's probably not a game for you. But that said, you can play teams. There's a 2v2, 3v3, and so on. And group up together, work together to take out your opponents. Team play is kind of fun. There is an expansion out there that adds some new weapon types and new maps, along with, I think, the exploding barrels were included in there. And adds a little bit more variety to the game, but it's more of the same. So if you don't care for the original, it's not really going to change that for you. But if you like the original, it's worth picking up to add more replayability and more variety to your game. In the end, though, if you like the theme, if you like the concept, it's a really fun game. It involves massive amounts of dice chucking, so if you're into that, that's another thing to look at. By the end, you're rolling tons of dice. We had an over-under mount, which lets you combine two weapons. We combined two machine guns together, and they do 3 die damage apiece, I think. So you're rolling 6 dice, and it gets 2 attacks because it's a machine gun. So you're rolling, 12 dice, two rolls of 6 in a row, and just massive amounts of dice being chucked in a turn. And it was a lot of fun. If you're interested in dice chucking games and, like I said, the arena combat aspect of it, I think you'll have a good time with it. Definitely better the more people you have, too. Playing with 2 players is kind of meh because you're always going after each other. It's head-to-head. With at least 3 players, now you have that third person while the 2 of you are duking it out. They're going to sneak in and try to steal the kill. That really adds to it. I definitely suggest playing 3 or more players. Honestly, once you have the basics, once you have the cards and things, the maps to play on, you can make your own player boards, and you can use whatever you want as figures, and you can play with as many players as you want after that point. And it really just can make a mess of things. It makes things really fun. So the more people you have, the better, definitely. And yeah, that's pretty much all there is to Frag, though. Just a quick shoot everybody. The old slogan on the box, I believe, used to say, if it moves, kill it. Or if you moves, frag it, I think, or something like that. But it's a perfect slogan for the game. It explains the game to a T. Anyway, that's going to wrap it up for our look at Frag Gold Edition from Steve Jackson Games. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, thank you guys for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.